lighting people. In July 1971, I arrived at Lawrence General Hospital north of Boston. And over the last 50 years, I've had very little impact on the lighting industry, positive impact, that is. But something else arrived in July of 1971 that's had a tremendously important impact on the lighting industry. And that is the first issue of Lighting Design and Application, the magazine of the Illuminating Engineering Society, was published. And over the last 50 years, it has provided lighting information and education to thousands upon thousands of lighting professionals throughout the world. So we thought it would be a good idea, in tribute to this milestone, to invite the editor and publisher of LD+A, Paul Tarricone, to join us for 5 big questions. Paul, hello, and thank you for joining us today.
Hi, Al, it's great to be here. Thanks for inviting me. Thanks for the fantastic introduction. And we couldn't be more excited about our golden anniversary.
Well, a lot's happened over the last 50 years. I can only imagine what the content was in the 70s, comparing it to the content that you folks run today. And when we think about some of the transitions that have happened over the 18 years that you've been a part of LD+A, you think about how back earlier this century, it was, the mainstream media was published on hard copy newspapers and magazines. That's transitioned to digital. How has LD+A made that transition in the past, and what does it have planned in the future to continue that transition?
Great question. Let's talk about how we got here. As you mentioned, at one time, the mainstream press, business publications, B2B publications were gatekeepers, right? There were printed magazines. The only way to get your message across to your audience was passing through our gates. With the digital revolution, it sort of democratized the way information is conveyed. We're no longer the gatekeeper. There are now podcasts, e-newsletters, websites, what we're doing right now, all sorts of ways to get your information out there. Now for LD+A, it's a cliche, it's a marketing kind of term, but we no longer consider LD+A to be a quote unquote magazine. It's now a brand. And the brand would include print, e-newsletters, web activity, anything that conveys the message to lighting professionals. So if I was going to be specific about that, we have our usual 12 issues of LD+A, but on top of that now we publish about 40 e-newsletters to our audience. These can be of a news variety, and that can also be market segment newsletters, which talk about all areas of lighting, from connected lighting to light and health, roadway and street lighting, commercial lighting. So it's a way to slice and dice content that didn't exist 18 years ago when I started on the publication, where it was, the word magazine was emphasized rather than brand.
Well, that makes a total amount of sense, and it's excellent to see. I enjoy your e-newsletter and all those other venues that you just mentioned. And let's tap into some of the things you just mentioned about how you have some of those targeted messages and topics going to various people. Because when you think about LD+A and you think about people in the lighting profession, there's people who are on the lighting science side, academia, there's architectural lighting specifiers and manufacturers who are IES members that receive the magazine. So with the wide varying audience that you apply your content to, how is it that you develop content that is designed to please the masses?
In a weird way, what you're describing is exactly right. So lighting would be a niche profession, but our society is a horizontal profession. It cuts across everything you just described. Agencies, manufacturers, designers, academics, researchers, educators, government people. So when you've got so many different horizontal segments within that vertical niche, in a way, yes, it's a challenge to create content that appeals to all of them. And we understand that nobody's going to read a magazine cover to cover, right? They're going to get their monthly magazine. My old friend LD+A has arrived on the 1st of the month, and they're going to treat it like a buffet. And that's how we treat it as an editorial staff. It's really a buffet of content. You're not going to pick from every chafing dish in that buffet. You're going to pick and choose and graze, if I can use a word, and that's perfectly fine. We're perfectly fine with that. Our sort of mantra is, even if you're not a roadway lighting person, you should, and you want to read a roadway lighting feature story, a case study, you should be able to get something out of that, right? Even if you're not in that niche. And part of it is aspirational, right? If you're a small lighting design firm and you aspire to do the MGM Grand facade and you see an article on that in LD+A, you might clip and save that and say, hey, look at those techniques they use. Maybe I can be in the game and do that next time. So it is challenging, to your point, to try to please so many masters when you're creating content. But it also creates opportunity that you have so many of those niches that you can write to, with the expectation that it's okay that not everybody's going to read every article.
Well, that's good insights into how you folks provide valuable content to all the different fragments of your audience. And in my relatively short time at Inside Lighting, I've noticed that some of our best content isn't necessarily some of our most popular content, and vice versa. How does LD+A manage that balance of providing really good content that also appeals to the masses?
I'm going to push back a little bit on the idea of trying to please the masses. You sort of run the risk of pandering a bit if there's a fine line between pleasing the masses and pandering. So what I like to do is just keep it simple. It's editorial integrity, it's editorial judgment. We're not creating, we're a society publication, as most of this audience will know. That said, we're not creating a magazine that's supposed to make the board of directors happy, or the committee chairs happy, or the staff happy. We're creating a magazine for the readers. We have one audience really in mind, and that's the readers of LD+A. The oldest cliche in this industry, as long as I've been in it, is content is king. And if you're following that mantra, that your audience is the typical IES member, it's not the top of the food chain of the IES, it's not the people who have been, as I said, on the board or serving on every committee. You're really writing for the typical member. So, to do that, you have to, create content that's provocative, entertaining, informative. We're not a peer-reviewed academic journal. So the two things in magazines, as long as I've been doing this, are you have to entertain and inform. And if you're going to pick one of those two, you might go with entertain, because there are other areas where you can only inform, and that's journals and peer-reviewed publications and that sort of thing. So it's a competition for eyeballs, right? So if you're getting that issue on the first of the month in the physical issue in your inbox, or the digital flipbook issue on your email, I'm viewing that as I'm competing for Al's time when he wants to read the Smithsonian or Newsweek or, the Atlantic, right? I mean, I really aspire to monopolize your time with my content. So I'm not really interested in pleasing you in the sense of being non-controversial. I'm interested in provoking your thoughts.
Well, one of the things that helps provoke my thoughts and please me when I do pick up each edition of LD+A is the variety of voices that contribute to the magazine. And you have, some recurring columnists, but oftentimes you have articles that are written by one-time or one-time contributors. And it's an all-star cast of industry experts that often are these people. So how do you determine who to invite to contribute to these articles, particularly when there's a person that might have a commercial interest that could benefit greatly from the publicity that your magazine offers?
Yeah, I'm going to give away all my secrets here. So we rarely invite someone to contribute, meaning that they've already done something in the industry on the topic that they're writing about. So my team and I really religiously read the conference programs for all the industry events. And we'll see that Jane Doe has just done a fantastic presentation on whatever it might be at the IES annual conference or Light Fair, whatever the case may be. So we'll see that topic, and if we're there at the show, maybe we'll go and sit in on the seminar. But if we're not there, we might follow up with that person and say, that's an article right there. Take your PowerPoint, turn that into an article. It's easy. We'll make it easy for you. We'll work with you. It's a collaboration. So it's few and far between when I'll invite someone sort of like a cold call to contribute. It's really, there's really a pretext to their contribution to the magazine. And the other two things I would say, it helps if somebody is a good writer, if they're sending an outline. We do have people that will pitch something to us independently. And as you say, if they're commercial, we'll emphasize that, sure, you can talk on the how-to or the technology, but it can't be your technology that you're talking about. And the other thing that I've emphasized time and again, and it tends to resonate with contributors, is I'm not looking for you just to diagnose the problem. I really want you to offer a solution along with your diagnosis. I mean, anyone can sort of carp and, raise a red flag about something in the industry, but an article really provides, here's how we solve it.
Yeah, always having a good takeaway, which you folks offer throughout your magazine and your other offerings is certainly excellent. When we look at the next 50 years, Paul, so you turn the page on 50 years, this publication, what exciting things do we see? Maybe not in the 50-year crystal ball, but at least in the near-term future, what exciting things should we expect from your fine publication?
Again, let's rewind back to when I started, and Bill Hanley was the executive VP of the IES at the time. And when I started, he would say, okay, you have source lamp manufacturers and you have luminaire manufacturers. Never the twain shall meet. The luminaire people buy from the source people. There's no crossover. Of course, that's over with, right? I mean, there's all kinds of integration between those two types of companies. Bill would say, okay, a lamp, right? Don't think of a lamp as I'm a neophyte here. And he's like, don't think of a lamp as something on your table. It's a light source and it goes in a box that's a luminaire or a fixture. And there you have it. Now, of course, we know with OLEDs and light blades and where the source really is the luminaire, everything he said on my first day in 2003, pretty much completely out the window. So in that context, over those 18 years, we've seen LEDs go from it's on a movie step or in your sneaker to the architectural light source. I mean, we don't get many case studies now that don't have LEDs as the premier light source that's used in the application. The whole idea of light and health 18 years ago was out there, but a little bit on the periphery. Now firmly in the mainstream, firmly integrated in pretty much all the issues that we publish. Connected lighting, right? Not even a term that anybody knew then. Horticultural lighting, right? Not something that was talked about in the context of the use of LEDs back in the day. Now, really part and parcel of the industry. So a long-winded way of answering your question, we've seen all those developments in the 2003 through 2021 time that I've been here, and even earlier. And who knows what's next? I mean, really, who knows what's next? And I think LD+A will be part of charting that evolution of the profession as it moves along. And ideally, the thing we've always talked about is, lighting no longer being considered a commodity, no longer considered being the thing that's on the end cap at a supermarket or a Home Depot. The lighting designer getting the seat at the table with the architect at the very beginning of the project. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. So that sort of elevation of lighting as a profession, whether it's through different types of certifications, more education, I would say that's going to be something that we're really focusing on in the future at LD+A.
Well, it's been an exciting ride to see the lighting industry progress through these changes, in your magazine and your publication and your brand make all of those transitions along the way. So we're excited to see what the industry has in store for us and how LD+A will be continuing to bring us the information and education related to it. So Paul, thank you so much for joining us today for 5 big questions.
My pleasure, Al. It's going to be an exciting ride.
Hey there, we really enjoyed that discussion. We hope that you did as well. Be sure to click that big LED logo next to me, and what that'll do is subscribe you to our YouTube channel so you don't miss the next 5 Big Questions interview. And YouTube subscribers always receive an early preview to the next interview before we even post it on the Inside Lighting website. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.